to High and Wide.
Yeah.
Quick show of hands. Who's a first timer at one of our events? Wow. Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for joining us tonight. A little background about High and Wide. We're a community organization. We're dedicated to connecting and empowering leaders in New York City cannabis. So give yourselves a round of applause. You're all leaders in New York City cannabis. Awesome. A little background about me. My background is in the tech world. I'm a former Googler. I worked in the startup world for a little bit. Now I'm an entrepreneur, and this is something that, you know, it's funny. I 6 months ago went to a High and Wide Meetup as a guest. Didn't know anything, just that I like cannabis and I like business. And I met a bunch of awesome, creative, passionate people, and it was just like, I have to be in this space. One thing led to another. Now I have the privilege of running one of these events, so thank you so much for joining me here tonight. There's been a lot of great news this past week on the federal level. I don't know if you guys have been following. Native American tribes are now able to cultivate and sell cannabis on their land, even in states where cannabis is illegal. I think that deserves a round of applause.
Yeah, amen.
But it's not enough. Am I right?
Correct.
So let's keep the momentum going here. We have a tremendous opportunity to change, to set the future, to create the future. And by being here tonight, you're actually doing that, because we have a lot of leaders in the cannabis world in here tonight that are doing tremendous things. And something that I'm excited to be a part of this coming year is the New York City Cannabis March and the Cannabis Parade. We're doing something pretty innovative this year in that the parade is on May 3rd.
No, it's May 2nd.
May 2nd. My apologies. We're always late, us, so. In 2015, from 4/20 to May 2nd, we're gonna have cannabis programming every single day, so cannabis-themed events. Every single day we're gonna get national, international news coverage, because this is New York City. People wanna know what we're doing. I invite and challenge all of you to participate in making those events a huge success. We need help. We need leaders to step up and actually do work and make these events real. So I'm going to invite my buddy Scott Giannotti, the founder of the Cannabis and Hemp Association, to tell you a little more about the planning process. Before I bring Scott up, I just want to tell you a funny story about Scott. And there's plenty of those. I remember months ago at a High and Wide Meetup, Scott came and announced the Cannabis and Hemp Association. He made this awesome speech. It's on YouTube, where he said, "I believe New York City is the capital of the world, and this room needs to be full of people," something like that. And I heard that and I was just like, fuck, this guy is the real deal. I love it. Scott's been doing awesome work. If you haven't been to CHA Meetup yet, you're cheating yourself, because every time I go, I learn a tremendous amount. He's making so much progress. He's gonna have a huge 2015, and I'm gonna let you tell him about how you can get involved in planning the parade and the extravaganza. And right before I bring Scott up, I just want to point out Noah Potter. Noah, can you stand up? And Dana, can you stand up? So these two gentlemen have been making the Cannabis Parade happen for many years, and they've been doing a lot beyond that in the cannabis world. So if you have any questions or want to get involved, these are two gentlemen that I encourage you to speak to. So with that said, I'm going to bring up Scott to tell you the details of how you can help.
All right. So, how am I going to follow that? I mean, this guy's better than the CNN and CNBC, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, that was really
Those are
nice.
drugs.
Yeah. So, I need 5 minutes, but I've only got one, so I'm going to make this really quick. So every other Thursday we meet, and we're doing this NYC Cannabis Extravaganza, which is designed to really get everybody engaged right up until the point of the parade, which we really want to be like a gigantic spectacle and really show people that, you know, we're here to stay. But the thing is, you know, the last 6 months, we've had hemp get unanimously passed in the Senate and get signed in. we've had medical marijuana, we've had the decriminalization. We're not going to get arrested for 25 grams or less if we have it. That's in the last 6 months. And we've also had a mayor that's battling the police force right now, which I think is pretty awesome. So this situation is very counterculture right now. And you know, I always tell people, don't let reality define your life. If people tell you things are a certain way, you know, if you believe that, you're a freaking asshole. I'm sorry. You know, no, I mean, New York is the capital of the world. People need to acknowledge that fact, that more people travel through this city than anywhere to get where they gotta go. And more money passes through this city, and there are more millionaires per square foot in this city than anywhere in the world. And the bottom line is, this is the most diverse culture in the world. So, in my opinion, this is the capital of the world. So, New York, by nature, would have to be the capital of the world for cannabis. And, you know, that's my vision, and I'm not going to vary from that vision. And I'm going to just drive right through anybody that gets in my way, quite frankly. And those people who know me know that I'm pretty serious about that. So, let's have fun tonight. Let's welcome Leafly for coming.
Got the parade.
And that's it.
The parade planning.
Oh, that's it every other Thursday. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well,
Where can
anybody,
people find out?
I think the easiest way to find out is just come get a business card from me. It has all the Meetup stuff. But it's the 7 Grams Cafe. You know, why do you think we go there? So, you know, come down to the 7 Grams Cafe every other Thursday, and that would start tomorrow, and then every other Thursday thereafter. And Mike will be there, and he's doing a great job. We're gonna have a 420 party, or Earth Day falls during that time frame, so we're gonna have a lot of great things happening. From like that 2 weeks is just gonna be our time. So let's build it up. Let's volunteer. Let's get involved. Let's make big change. Let's not just sit at home and watch everything happen. You know.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that really quickly, I think we have a unique opportunity in New York City that we're really ahead of the ball right now. You know, the Compassionate Care Act is pretty restrictive, but I'm confident that we will go recreational eventually. And the sooner the community of leaders can come together and be on the same page and do business the right way, the better off we'll all be, and the better example we'll all be to the rest of the world when it comes to cannabis. So with that said, I'm going to pass the floor off to our keynote speaker, Cy Scott, co-founder of Leafly, have the entrepreneur success story of, you know, working in his spare time on this startup, this passion project, got bought out, and he's living the dream. And he's going to tell us all about it.
All right, my name is Cy Scott. Thanks for the great introduction there. How many of you are familiar with Leafly? Is most of the room familiar? Maybe some of you aren't. Everybody has the app, I hope?
Yeah.
Okay. We're recent transplants to Seattle. Basically, we started the company in California, so we do have a lot of Windows phones in Seattle, so we don't support that one quite yet, but I don't know how that is going to work. I doubt it kind of has to turn. Yeah, exactly, right. So, did anybody get a chance to go to the Marijuana Business Conference Expo in Las Vegas or read about it? It's in MJ Business Daily. You guys went. Oh, great. So, you're well aware Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream was a keynote speaker. And unfortunately, I couldn't go. We had the Leafly presence there. But I read a little article about Ben and what he was talking about when he was announced as a keynote speaker. And he kind of talked about the industry as akin to kind of the organic food industry, which is probably something they're pretty well aware of. And he talked about, you know, it's a lot of alternative type individuals, real true believers and real entrepreneurs. And, you know, looking around this room, I mean, that's, I think, the best definition of all of us here, right? I mean, you know, we're early on in this cannabis stuff. It's going pretty crazy every month. Like we're just talking about 6 months, you know, it's changed a lot of stuff's happening. When we started Leafly 4 years ago, it's strictly a medical world. We were in California. We had no idea that recreational would happen the way it happened. It's been pretty incredible. So the fact that you guys are here on a Wednesday night is cool, and you know, you should applaud yourself. Like, you know, it's going the right direction. We're confident, and obviously you guys are confident, and you know, we look forward to the future. So a little bit about myself. I'm from the technology industry. I'm an entrepreneur, also a cannabis enthusiast, obviously. Done a lot of startups, failed startups, and that's the nature of startups. You try something, you fail, and you learn, and you build something else. A while back I was at Kelley Blue Book, KBB.com, which you're probably all pretty familiar with. It's an automotive valuation service. And that's, I was there with Scott Dickers and Brian Wansich, also the other co-founders of Leaf, who unfortunately aren't here tonight. And Scott got his doctor's recommendation in California, went to a dispensary, he was really overwhelmed with the selection, and I really didn't have exposure to that kind of selection of cannabis, and really understand the nuances between the different strains, indica versus sativa, and even in the sativas, the differences. And he went out looking for some sort of resource to kind of help with that. There really wasn't anything available. The best kind of stuff you find are single reviews, one individual's reviews, like you'd see in High Times or other blogs at that time, where it's one person's perspective. So we wanted to create a platform that people could go and contribute their ratings and reviews. And you can keep it private if you want. You can use it for your own personal journaling to kind of understand what you like and what you don't like. And I know it's early on in New York, and I think you guys have some access to cannabis. I've got to guess here, right? And I've seen, I think there is some selection now. I've even seen, I was here a couple years ago in the summer, I spent summer in Dumbo there, and I saw packaged flower and it had like a leafy tile on it. It wasn't ours, but it's kind of cool to see, someone taking that and rewriting the description. But we really wanted to create something that was a little targeted more of the mainstream audience, or even the medical audience. There are real patients out there that needed that kind of information. Someone suffering from cancer and nausea and not really knowing, what strains work, and you're kind of at the mercy of a bud tender in a dispensary. I'm not sure if you guys have all had a chance to go to a dispensary or a recreational shop, but it's pretty incredible, the selection, the choice, and just it's a little overwhelming for someone that's starting out, or even for an expert. Like all sorts of new strains popping up all the time. So we wanted to create a platform for that. We really wanted to go design forward, thinking about it differently than other people had. Not catering to the stereotype, but we're all inclusive. We have all types of people using the fleet, from the real hardcore enthusiast cannabis user to the medical patient to now just the recreational user that we're seeing in Colorado and Washington that are just kind of curious and getting back into cannabis. So we took that idea and put it together. Our original MVP was just a strain index. I think we listed like 50 strains to start. And that was pretty much it. And we just had the journaling ability, and people came, and it really got a lot of traction. They started writing reviews, we started aggregating those reviews and sharing that content out. And fast forward 4.5 years now, we've been acquired by Privateer Holdings, which you may have read about. Their company out of Seattle. We're also now out of Seattle. We share an office there. They raised a lot of money to invest in businesses in this space. So we're there now. We've got, we do about 5 million sessions a month on, the web and the app. We've done over 2 million app downloads all time. And every year we do 100% growth year over year. And relevance in New York, New York's our number 6 most popular state as far as visits and traffic we see, which is really interesting when there's no dispensary model. We also list a lot of locations now.
Why do you think that is?
I think people in New York like cannabis.
Is that true?
Yeah, I don't know. This is the room to ask, I suppose. And population. We also see states like Texas, which surprisingly, a lot of traffic coming from there, and they have no laws. And I mean, now that the Compassionate Care Act, there's stuff starting here, the decriminalization, so that's great. But it's been really cool, and the growth has been really great. One of the things that I think we've done really well, and as you guys start businesses or get involved in businesses, I'm sure some of you have already started stuff, some of you are thinking about it, but the marketing side, it's something that's really important, and it's kind of something that we're seeing it's being, more and more important as time goes on. And we've done all sorts of stuff. We've done deals with Snoop, where he would tweet, and we sponsored a concert of his, and we had a big presence there. That did pretty well for us. And we also did a full-page New York Times ad. I don't know if you Yeah, awesome.
Right after the Compassionate Care Act.
That's right.
Right
yeah.
after, good times.
Yeah. So we actually had that ad for quite some time. We're working with a company out of Seattle called Heckler Associates. They did all the branding for Starbucks originally, New Balance shoes, K2 skis. Really cool branding agency, boutique agency. they took us on as a client, which was kind of unprecedented. Cannabis client. They're real forward thinking, but they're a small shop, so they can be. And they really thought a lot about what is the next level. What kind of ad would go out and speak to a big audience. And they came up with that ad. And we sat on it for 2.5 years, I believe, before the timing was right. And then, the Passion Care Act passed. We really wanted to get in front of the New York audience. We really wanted to make a big splash. And it was incredible. I mean, that ad, while it was really expensive, brought us a lot of other kind of media presence after that. A lot of interviews. We got picked up on a lot of outlets. So, really valuable. And that saying, like, rising tide lifts all boats. We're trying to put a good face to the industry, get away from that stereotype, the things that a lot of people lean on when they're talking against cannabis. So we hope, things like that ad, really help support that. Not really related to Leafly, but a cousin company, you guys might have heard of, Marley Natural, announced by Privateer. So that was a huge deal for them, working with the Marley family to get that locked down. I think it took them a year to even before they ever announced anything, and there's nothing really happening quite yet. A lot of early stage stuff, but they're looking at doing heirloom strains in certain markets, probably recreational markets, possibly Canada. Topicals, lotions, things like that. But Brendan Kennedy, who's actually currently a Leafly CEO, also Privateer, one of the core on the Privateer team, was on the Today Show announcing. So on the Today Show, they're talking about heirloom cannabis strains. Matt Lauer, which is pretty incredible. So it's kind of a new day. And we're really trying to push that forward. And hopefully, the more all of us do that, the better it's going to be for everybody. Another thing, as far as marketing and PR, it's a great time to be in this industry. It's really early. Pretty much anything you do is a first. We're the first full-page ad in the New York Times. First cannabis company to do a full-page ad. There's been plenty of full-page ads, but first cannabis company. First cannabis company on the Today Show, right? The opportunities are limitless in that. So, take advantage of that. Utilize that as you guys build your brands, and just know that that's out there. As new states come online, you see it in Oregon, Alaska, at the elections that was a big deal. People wanted to talk about it. But then we noticed as the states start to roll out their recreational markets or medical markets in New York, people want to talk. Press wants to talk to you, right? And if you're involved in the industry, it's a great opportunity to get out there and get in front of people and get your name out there. And we found that it's really helped work for Leafly. And, the fact that, the majority of the room knows about us is already, pretty incredible. Pretty special to hear that. And a lot of that has to do with just the media helping us out. And they're hungry for good information, and if you're putting a good face to it, they're going to want to talk to you. So that's Leafly, and after I'm kind of done with my whole spiel, I want to do a Q&A. So anything you guys want to ask me, I'm happy to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about the industry, some of the realities of the industry. Things that we run into a lot. One of them is just struggling to stay up to date with the kind of fragmented marketplace, fragmented regulations, different states, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is to meet you guys, to talk to you guys, and kind of hear what's happening in New York. It's not just me talking about Leafly, but I really want to hear what you guys are hearing, what you guys are seeing on the front lines of this whole thing. That's great for us to know. It's good for our business to be able to support New York as it comes online, and just kind of keep tabs of what's going on. But it's a difficult thing to do. Every state is so different. New legislation all the time. We're in Seattle. A good example is the medical market is pretty unregulated right now. And part of the I-502 legislation was to roll medical under recreational. But there's a lot of issues with that, obviously, right? Like patients need access to medicine, and it's very expensive to do recreational. It's taxed. It's taxed so much. It's very expensive for just a gram. So they're slow to figure that out. Meanwhile, a lot of kind of rogue type dispensaries are opening up. So the state's kind of looking at that, wants to shut that down. Certain cities are trying to shut it down. Seattle's trying to write legislation. Our mayor's writing legislation to kind of fast forward that. Meanwhile, the state's doing it, just trying to keep tabs of all of that. Who are we listing on our website? Who do we talk about? It's just tricky. But that's kind of probably every early industry, right? It's just kind of messy. A lot of things are happening. Just Also kind of makes it exciting, right? It's not boring, it's not like stagnant, it's always cheap. But it is a bit of a challenge. More regulation, which we really like coming from Leafly. We like the regulation. One of the things we do are the cannabis strain reviews, the location reviews, and we want people to know that the strains that they're reviewing are the actual strains. It's really easy for people to just read label different strains in unregulated markets, like California is a good example. So we like that seed to sale model that we're seeing in areas like Washington and Colorado. We like that happening. But I think if you're in the industry, if you're on the front lines, if you're dealing with the plant, it's tricky, it's complicated, and it's tough. It's kind of like Uber and Europe or something, right? It's like, they're trying to force their way. It's not really regulated, but as regulations kind of trying to catch up, it makes it difficult for them. So that's just stuff that you guys will run into, that we've run into. So just want to talk about that. Also, some trends we're seeing is more of the mainstream audience in these recreational markets are different consumption methods. And I was talking a little bit earlier about what's available here in New York. I'm not really sure what kind of selection you guys have, but we're really seeing a rise of edibles and concentrates. Concentrates, are the basis of edibles, but also like carbonizers on vape pens. Where you just attach the vape pens. I don't know if you guys have access to that type of stuff yet, but it's super convenient, super easy, and it really lowers the barrier to entry for someone that's interested in cannabis again. We're seeing a lot of people a lot of elderly that tried it when they're young, and then now that it's legalized, they're happy to try it again. They wouldn't have previously because it was illegal, and they weren't motivated enough to go get their doctor's recommendation for it. But now that it is recreationally legal in Washington and Colorado, soon to have markets in Oregon and Alaska, you're starting to see that. They don't want to take flour and grind it up and put it in a bong. Grandma doesn't want to do that, right? It's a lot easier for her to buy an edible or to buy the little vape pen. It goes away from the smoking. We're seeing a lot of that, and we're trying to catch up with that on Leafly. We list strains right now, and we don't do a very good job of kind of differentiating, but we're working on some new initiatives right now. So early next year, you'll start to see some big changes happen at Leafly to support. But that's something that we're seeing out in Washington and Colorado, and it's going to be happening here shortly as well. It's just different consumption methods. There's a lot of opportunity there. And as that happens, we're seeing a big shift to brands. When we started Leafly, brands were the locations, were the dispensaries. So you go to a dispensary and the flower was just flower. A lot of it in Southern California would get pulled down by vendors from Northern California, the Inland Triangle. Or if you're in Colorado, you're mandated to grow 70% of your inventory. So you could go to a store and you knew their grow methods and you like their nutrients, you like their products, so you just go there. But that's changed now in Colorado. They've opened that up now so they can sell and distribute amongst each other. And then with regulation in Washington, you're starting to see producer-processor models. So now it's packaged flower from a processor, and that can be distributed in many locations. Just like you might buy your favorite craft brew, right? Some beer that you really like, you don't have to go to one store to get it necessarily, unless it's really rare for some reason. But you can go to many places, so we're kind of seeing this big rise of brands. So that's another thing that's kind of on the horizon with recreational, and you guys will see more and more of that. And with brands comes branding, comes marketing, all of those things, and that's really where there's room to really excel, because right now it's pretty low barrier to entry. It's all kind of catering to that stoner stereotype. Not that that's a bad thing, but for the mainstream audience, they might be turned off from that. There's a lot of big advantages to kind of going that real clean, real well-designed route. So definitely an opportunity. Especially for something that's historically been a real fringe product. So that's, I think, about all I've got. I think I was about 10 minutes, hopefully, not too much more.
10 and a half.
10 and a half, all right. Nobody's too mad. You want to do QA?
I'd love to. I'll start off. I'm curious, what are you most excited about and concerned about for next year for the industry?
Maybe the same thing. So one of the things that you haven't seen a lot yet is venture capital money kind of pouring in. There's a reason why we went with Privateer as a full sale. They bought us outright. Privateer's mandate is to buy, build, and invest in companies. And don't think they've invested in anything yet. They've built a couple companies, Martin Natural, which they're building now, Tilray, which is in Canada, which is under the MSPR rules, where they can actually grow, process, and ship to customers. And then they bought Leafly. We're the only company that they purchased. But we talked to some venture capital people early on, but while they liked what we were doing, it's still a little scary for them. I think part of it, obviously Schedule 1 is a big problem.
Yeah.
Knowing the industry, which way it's going to go, it could get, a lot of people say, well, it could get shut down with the next president, potentially, right? Even though public opinion says otherwise, that's a risk for VCs. But I think we're seeing more and more, we're seeing small angel investments on sites like AngelList into like delivery apps. So I think, the VCs, it's not far off where money is coming in, and that's exciting, right? Because that really opens it up. You have something cool, you can go pitch it, maybe you can get some funding to help you grow it. We didn't have that. We were all bootstrapped. All the costs came out of our pocket initially, and just trying to get sales. And it's tough when you have a day job to do both of those things. But it's also scary for me personally, because that means a lot of competition, potentially, a lot of really compelling offerings probably coming when the money's around. And that kind of goes for the whole industry, right? Right now we're able to kind of fly under the radar, really establish ourselves. Once they deschedule or reschedule at the very least, it could open up to a lot of bigger brands and companies that want to come in, which makes it a lot harder for a smaller group to really do something interesting in this space. So I think that's kind of two sides of the exact thing.
Prices will drop.
Let's open it up to the audience. Doug.
Yeah, two questions. First of all, I guess Weed Maps is probably your biggest competitor in this space. I'm wondering how you differentiate yourself from Weed Maps. And the other thing is, I wonder if you could share your thoughts on the role of businesses and activist groups. Here in New York, people say there's a lot of positive trends, but there's also a lot of problems. Our medical law is weak. Regulations are about to come out that we think are probably not going to be so good. Fortunately, they're draft regulations and are open to public comment. The decrim law, people can still get deported if they're convicted. If they're convicted of violating for a violation, you can still get deported. Governor Cuomo has said he's opposed to legalization. It'd be dragged kicking and screaming into doing anything when it comes to medical. What do you think the role is of businesses in this space to support activist work? Because there's still a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done on the public policy side.
Yeah, absolutely. So, which one do you want me to start with? First question?
Either one, your
Okay.
choice.
So first question was about Weed Maps.
Yes.
So Weed Maps is our competitor as far as I think revenue goes. We have the same dispensary customers often. We do position our app and website a little bit differently. We have a resource for strain information, and we help people connect where they can find that strain at certain locations. We also have just a location service, so for people that are comfortable with Weed Maps, it's just a map, find a shop. We have the same thing. We actually have more listings in Weed Maps right now. We started in Southern California, and just by chance, we ended up catty corner to their office at one point, which is kind of interesting.
Where was that?
That was in Newport Beach.
Newport Beach?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think they're out of that office. We're obviously out of that office that we were in, but that's just kind of a strange thing. We have some history with them. We've talked in the past, but they're definitely a competitor. One advantage we have is the strain database and our news and culture content, our editorial. We're able to kind of get in markets before they are, which has really helped us. So we're in New York, right? Where they're not relevant in New York because you're not looking for a dispensary in New York yet. So we already kind of have that foundation. So as new states come online, we're finding that we're kind of beating them to it. They do really well in California. They were first in California, which I think helped with our first mover advantage. Which is a lot, like I mentioned, a lot of firsts in the industry. There's a lot of value to that.
What about in Colorado?
I think about even. Colorado's Wild West a little bit. It's pretty interesting, how they do stuff. Mature markets, they want to do a lot of what we're doing on their own. We see, even for what Weed Maps is up to. So yeah, I think they're definitely a competitor for the ad revenue, but we do things a little bit differently and treat cannabis a little bit differently. Yeah, so that's the first one. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, second question. It's really important for businesses to get involved. I know there's the NCIA now. They've been around for probably about 4 years, maybe a little less. And they're in Washington trying to help with some of the legislation. We're members of the NCIA. In Washington, I know we have the NJBA, which is really growing. They're expanding to other cities in Washington right now. And that's the Marijuana Business Alliance. So it's businesses coming together, really trying to change perceptions and regulation together instead of just kind of all on their own. And it's kind of cool about this industry. We're all in the room together. We have a lot of opportunity to kind of team up and really, hopefully, make some change that's more difficult alone. So it's important, definitely, and more groups need to be formed. New York could probably use a group if there isn't a group already for that, just like we have one in Washington.